Welcome back, everyone, to 1YL or 1 Year Later, a podcast show amplifying the voices of people taking adversity into their own hands and changing their world and the world around them. And today, yet another world changer among us. We have the one and only Kaitlin Sandeno, Hogan. How are you, Kaitlin?
I'm good. I feel very honored by that title, being a world changer. My goodness. Take that with pride.
You know what? A lot of people are honored by world changer, and I just really believe everyone after this last year is a world changer. They are figuring out how to take adversity and just run with it. And you, my friend, have done some incredible things this last year that is so inspiring, and I cannot wait to chat about them. But I'm just excited to be here.
Well, I feel like everybody has the ability to make a change. It's just having that belief, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who we are, what our platform is. I mean, we could literally just be nice to one human being today, and that could change somebody else's world or day. So I like what you're going with, Corey.
I love it. Kindness is overrated, right? Or not, or underrated.
Underappreciated
and underrated.
Yes.
But man, okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, this show is not about accolades, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my friend Kaitlin off the cuff. I have nothing prepared, but this is just my beliefs about her. She has a past of incredible, inspiring swimming. She's a 4-time Olympic medalist. She went to 2 Olympic Games, first Olympic Games when she was 17 years old. Came back and still had to be ASB president. It was crazy. And then after the Olympics, she found her life in a position where she wanted to give back in some way and became the national spokesperson for the Jesse Reese Foundation, or NIGU, which you guys heard a little bit about with our episode with Kellen Rowe the other day. And then since then, she has had some different adventures. She is a partner in a company with some swimming fins, some new patented swimming fins. And she is one of the very first, not the first, but one of the first women who are leading the charge as a general manager in sport for the DC Trident, a brand new international swim league team that has been kicked off in the last 2 years. And she has been absolutely crushing it and leading her worldwide athletes to have an incredible time in the sport of swimming. And today we'll get to talk a little bit about that. But Kaitlin, you are finding yourself in a lot of different avenues that I'm sure 1 year ago, when the world did some weird things, it presented a lot of shifting in a lot of avenues where you found yourself traveling a lot, but then got back to home base. How did you really balance everything the last year? And how are you was it weird? Was it hard? What overall emotion on the last year?
So the lockdown started on my birthday, or my birthday weekend. So
happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. You can't do anything. So my birthday was Friday the 13th last year, March 13th. And I remember just not really knowing, it wasn't clear, can I go out? Can I not go out? Some restaurants were still open, some wasn't. Some of our friends wanted to get together. Some of our friends were terrified. My parents were should we come over? My sisters didn't. It was such a time of confusion, I think, when it all happened. And I come from such a tight-knit family. So when my sisters didn't come to my birthday, I was like, this is weird. And then, Easter was shortly afterwards, and I'm usually surrounded by my family, and it's such a special holiday. And that was, secluded in our home. And I think, after the confusion kind of settled and we were put into this lockdown state, I think everybody, if we really asked them, kind of those first 3-4 days, oh, no work. I'm going to stay cuddled on the couch and start a puzzle and play card games. And this is kind of fun. And then, that 3-4 days kind of turned into another week. And then it was this isn't fun. This is abnormal. And, people rushing to the grocery stores and the whole toilet paper debacle and all of that. I'm really? What is going on in the world?
Right.
So that was scary, and last year was supposed to be an Olympic year, and obviously I'm not still competing, but I had roles already booked or locked in that rode off of the Olympics. I was supposed to be on deck live host at the Olympic trials, which is a really big deal for me personally and professionally. And I, was really sad that that wasn't going to happen, but my heart just really ached for all the athletes. I think,
totally.
Having been on that Olympic journey and knowing about these 4-year plans and everything that goes into it, how do you not feel terrible for the athletes.
Totally. Well, and Omaha presents such an incredible experience for all of the athletes that participate, right? Like, not a lot of people probably don't know, but in the sport of swimming, two athletes qualify for the United States for each event, but there are hundreds of athletes that qualify Olympic trial cuts to get to compete on an incredible stage in Omaha, Nebraska, at the USA Olympic trials. And that experience in itself is a monumental experience that is a moment that builds momentum for the future of all of these athletes. So, I mean, I hear you. Like, it hurt my heart to know that like they weren't going to get that experience, and just held my fingers crossed the rest of the year, hoping that 2021 would bring about an opportunity for them to do so.
Right, right. And then, you know, that was around the same time too. I mean, obviously in the beginning when they started canceling all the NCAA sports, and I was like, oh my gosh, like,
I know,
heartbreaking for the seniors and all college athletes. And you know, so obviously personally, I feel like I was like really empathetic to the athletes, and then professionally I'm like, well, there goes my year.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, that wasn't the case. And as you had shared, I'm a GM of a professional swim team. There's 10 teams in this league. And we're like, all right, what's plan B? And so I was really proud of how the league stepped up. I think they realized this was an opportunity for us to kind of shine too. You know, it's like, let's do something that everybody thinks won't be done, and let's give these athletes something to be excited for, and something to train for, and something to mentally have to help them overcome this heartbreak. And so the league rallied, and we put the wheels in motion to be like, all right, let's set up a bubble camp. And so, you know, our league was structured to travel the world and to compete right after the Olympics. Well, now the Olympics are happening, and traveling is, you know, so we went with this mentality of this bubble camp. And I will tell you, the logistics to have that come together was, I didn't sleep much for quite some time. That was challenging. But like I said, for me, I feel like I have a professional hat that I have to wear, but I feel like I will always sympathize with the athletes. It was like, I'm doing this for the athletes. So that's what motivated me to go through all the challenges of trying to get this camp to come together. So yeah, we were in a bubble type environment for, I was personally there right short of 5 weeks. We were in Budapest, which to me was just amazing to actually leave the country, to get out of this lockdown. I mean, granted, I was literally, you were either at the hotel or you were at the pool. That's all you got to do. But our hotel was called Marguerite Island, which it was an island, but was big enough. It was about 3.25 miles around. So they had a padded walking trail that we could do. And I try to do that every day. It was beautiful. And for me, being in Southern California, I never really get to see seasons. So to watch the changing of the colors of the leaves was like really, really like magical for me. And we were surrounded by the two rivers too. So I had an incredible view of just this beautiful foliage and the river and the hills and this beautiful, I mean, Budapest has such old and beautiful monuments, and I really felt grateful to be there. I mean, granted, the COVID testing was insane. We were tested so often, and they were very aggressive. Like, they were really getting in there. So I always had a little anxiety on test days, but it was so worth it. You know, I could say that I lived in another country in the middle of a pandemic, which is pretty amazing as a life experience.
You truly were like Hungarian for a part of your life. Like, you lived the European like living experience. Like, that's one piece, but then amongst a pandemic, like, nonetheless, like, you were able to figure that out. And the cherry on top of it all was you were providing an environment along with the other 9 GMs to allow swimmers the opportunity to train and to compete when they hadn't for 6-7 months. And that was the wildest part to me. Like, here's one piece that I do want you to share from the perspective of others. Like, I don't know that a lot of people have really conceptualized what it means to be able to train swimming when pools are shut down. So like, what was that like in that like May to, I would even say, July timeframe, most pools were not available to like have swimmers swimming in them, whether it be club pools, YMCA pools, community pools. How were your athletes training? And then what was the vibe like in terms of like, even I know you told me a story about a head coach who was encouraging his swimmers to go to compete for ISL to get the competitive experience because he didn't know if more competitions would exist prior to the Olympics.
Right.
So
Yeah. It was challenging too, because I also had to recruit a competitive team. And it's
right.
like, well, I don't know if so-and-so's training right now. Like, I don't know what type of shape they're in. Like, this person got an endless pool. Like, how much workout are they getting? So that was really challenging too, because obviously you wanted to present this opportunity to swimmers, but you also wanted to recruit people that you knew would be strong enough to compete and race and score points for you. And that was a huge gamble too, you know, and my team, they did okay. They didn't do great in competition. I will say that, unfortunately, we had some amazing swims, but a lot of them we just, you know, we're kind of falling a little short. But that was stressful for the athletes too. Another thing to put on top of it. I mean, I know they were excited to get this opportunity, but they also knew that they needed to get to Budapest in shape. So it was being really clever, really, and taking whatever they could get. I mean, I had swimmers that were driving like an hour and a half to swim in somebody's small like backyard pool, and I was like, really? And they're like, it's all we got right now. And there was some facilities where they could kind of go on as normal just because they had this huge opportunity for one reason or another. But I could tell you the dry land became all the more important. You know, the yoga, the Pilates, anything that they could do in their homes, the mental training. But I also think too, like a little bit of rest is good for the body. I mean, coming from somebody that had a lot of injuries in my sport and that trained a ton, I tried to give that mental encouragement that, hey, maybe this could be a real positive thing. Like your body can take a little bit of the pounding off and then you can focus on some other things. But yeah, I know it was definitely interesting, Corey. I mean, everybody came from different environments. Like I said, I have 32 athletes and then staff had 7 staff members. So I was responsible for a little under 40 people. I also had some European coaches that joined us too. So I think I was roughly in charge of like 42 people. And as you shared, there was 9 other teams. So you can think of this bubble environment. And once they got there, I feel like they were just really grateful because they finally had the accommodations to train, to use a weight room, to have teammates. That was another thing that was so huge. Is like, see swimming as an individual sport. It really is. But when you're training with people, and you know, you really like kind of thrive off of your teams. And a lot of these people didn't have teammates because we were all supposed to be keeping away from people. So being in this bubble, now they had teammates, they had other teams out there to be competitive with. And I feel like to bond with.
Yes.
They've all been just thrown this really shitty scenario and kind of come together over that. So that I think is really unique and special too. And you know, I feel like my athletes were really grateful for the opportunity, really.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a strong team culture and vibe, and I'm excited to see what they do this year. I think they, even though it's been a rough year, I think that the opportunity to swim fast is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one thing is clear is that what I'm hearing from you is that you were in the right space at the right time to be able to care for this group of athletes, to care for this group of coaches, to care for swimming, the sport that you have always had a passion for and that changed your life in many ways. And it's very clear that I'm hearing from you that you were able to you were proud to be able to create an environment to help those athletes be at their best when it was such an adverse year. But I also hear that amongst, like, let's back up to March. 1 year ago, like, the lockdown presented interesting spaces for you personally to have to dodge and weave and like sift through in your heart to be able to reconcile spaces of losing work and you know, not being able to see family and what were like those pieces of the puzzle that weren't in place. And I can only imagine that those were like significant challenges that you personally had to like sift through. And like, what can you identify a couple of those? And then what were some turning points that really helped you push past those in order to get you to where you are today, which is with your chin held a little bit higher, with a couple more smiles amongst your day, a lot less puzzles and card games. But like, I want to know a little bit about you personally, like where you were in those challenges and what those turning points were to get you to today.
I feel like in general, I did pretty well.
Yeah.
I know I definitely had like two or three breakdowns of just like, when is this going to end? Am I going to have a stream of revenue? Um, get me out of the house. Like, I don't sit very well, and I actually don't even like puzzles. And it was weird to not be traveling. I mean, I've been traveling since I've 16 years old. And,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, at first it was kind of nice. And then after that, I'm like, I'm not used to being home so much. And, not seeing family. Like, I thrive off of people, and to be like locked in my house. And it was scary. I feel like, how could you have not been scared at one point,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading articles that just like made me like break down in tears of like,
Mm-hmm.
older people that couldn't get ventilators. And, this one
Mm-hmm.
woman was dying, and she knew that they were low on ventilators, and she passed on. She's, no, give this to somebody younger. I've lived a good life. And I was just like
Mm-hmm.
bawling, like reading this article.
Yeah. Right.
And then, I had some moments where I was really worried about my parents. So that obviously hit me hard. And then, on a real personal note, my sister was in the middle of her battle with cancer. And, I had been by her side from the beginning. And then she's halfway through chemo, and they're like, you can't come anymore. And so that was really challenging. It was harder for me to see that for my sister. I was there to be supportive, and then thinking of my sister going and sitting there doing chemo like all by herself, like really made me sad. And also, like, I was scared to be around her too, right? And it's like, I don't want to get her sick, but I don't want to not see her. So finding that balance, and just sitting in her backyard with her and trying to help her through already a very challenging time in this world. And then, oh yeah, you have cancer. So that combo is just so heartbreaking. So yeah, I mean, I would say for the most part, I had better days than bad days, but at the same time, it was giving myself grace. And that's what I was trying. Like, when I was doing, there was like, I feel like podcasts were really popular in that first like month or two. Everybody was doing it, and talking to my athletes, I was just trying to stress, like, you have to give yourself grace. And if you're going to have a bad day, you need to let yourself have a bad day.
Yeah.
And then you're allowed to have good days too. Like, I feel like people feel like they needed to be upset or scared or worried. And it's like, you can say that you love doing nothing today. Like, that's totally okay to admit. Like, now you have legit reasons to cancel plans. Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
So, I think it's a process of grace. And my husband and I had to get creative and figure out, how to keep money coming in. And, it really opened up communication between him and I, which I think is an amazing thing for, a marriage. And, I told him, if we can get through this year together, we can get through anything. So I think it was just really important to be supportive to your spouse. In that time, I feel like that was what was really helpful for me, just for our marriage. And just trusting each other and believing in each other and encouraging each other and being that support system.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think the whole purpose of this podcast is to help other people listen in and to feel as though they were in a similar space as the way that you're explaining, right? And the purpose of this podcast isn't to find people who were in a really bad place a year ago and they're in a much better place now. It's to truly just be able to listen to someone and say, oh yeah, I was kind of in that spot too. Like, I was doing puzzles and I wanted to be doing other things, and I was sad for environments that were not as healthy and weren't as, confident in themselves in that season. But amongst it, you were able to stay strong mentally and fight through it. And I know that people are going to be very encouraged by your story, because it's totally a story of family first. Work will come, and trusting in the future and having patience, and truly like the ability for you guided so many people with the way you led your life, but also the way you were encouraging others to lead theirs. You inspired so many people just to keep their head up last year, and it's really cool to get to run that race with you and be able to watch you just impact so many lives. So great job.
Thank you.
One thing that I think is really fun that I remember being on the phone with you about was last year. Like you're a workout gal. You like
Yeah.
changing it up, and you had to find some ways to do some at-home fitness. So did you find yourself on that stationary bike a lot this past year?
I know. I mean, I didn't jump on the Peloton bandwagon,
Right.
although it was tempting. But yeah, I have one in the living room, which is like so against anything I believe in.
Right,
But
right,
that was like kind of the thing, like anything went during this, I think my husband's like, wow, my wife's really lost it. Cause I'm like, oh, what's your shoes doing now? Put your shoes away, and I'm like, oh, here's a stationary bike in our living room. But
right,
I liked it in the living room because then I would just watch TV on the bike.
right. It's a double whammy.
It is, but I will say it did not last very long as far as keeping my attention. Like I said, like I need people, I need to be out and about. I will say recently I finally gave in because then I felt like those like podcast workouts became very popular and you had to subscribe. And I was like, I can't do it. Well, I got on board with Aloes. Like, this is not an ad at all. They don't sponsor me, but I love the Alo workout app. So that has been kind of my saving grace recently. I went through all different phases. I went for a long walk phase. I went through the stationary bike phase. I went through the nothing phase. I went through the clock happy hour phase. Like, like I had all of those different phases. But then I was like, all right, Kaitlin, you need to get like your healthy routine in check. So I think it's just important that you find something just to move. I mean, I don't work out hard anymore, but I just am trying to encourage myself to just move daily, because now we are so much more sedentary. We're just sitting and we're like not moving a ton, like when you work from home, and so I think movement is important. And then I've been trying to stay dedicated to my faith somehow. For me, I really did enjoy watching church from my couch. It was sad not being there, but there was something really therapeutical about that, being able to just be up on the couch with a blanket and to watch church and to get inspiration through messages and whatnot. But I will say it does feel good. I've been back the last 3 or 4 weekends and it's been really good for my soul.
Yeah, good. I love it. Well, I mean, overall, when I hear about your 1 year ago, it started out like any usual lockdown, if we can call it usual. And it sounds to me like you really took the many years of mental toughness that you were taught in the pool and that you had to face through injury and adversity. And you chose to kind of put that hat on and continue to inspire people along the way, despite having many challenges that were thrown your way. And to hear now and to know now that, things are looking up, there's the still possibility of an Olympics on the horizon. The Olympic trials is now going to be in 4 phases of USA Swimming. Like they're continually adding and swimmers are getting these time cuts, and to know and be hopeful for what's to come for the next generation, the now generation of swimmers. Like it's really cool to see your journey from last year, this time of year, to 365 days later, to know that you're continuing to just inspire people and do what Kaitlin normally does in all of our lives. So keep it up, Kayshay. You're doing awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just feel like it's important to think this too shall pass, and who knows, what will be the new normal. But I feel like every obstacle that we overcome, we get stronger and we learn from it. And even when I'm looking at this new season of ISL, I was like, okay, last season was really, really hard to figure out, but we figured it out and it was a success. So this year, whatever those obstacles may be, hopefully they're a little bit less. We can take what we learned last season. I think you just always need to learn from the past, good or bad, and present it that way. And I just think it's important that we support each other and rally around each other and let people know that they're not alone. And that was a part that worried me, like people that lived alone or people that didn't have a significant other, or weren't able to have a roommate or whatever. Those are the ones I were trying to check in on, and like my heart hurt for those people because I knew I couldn't get through last year without my husband and obviously like my close-knit family. So I just think like my little 2 cents is just care for each other, spread love. And I think it's just really important that we're respectful in this time. I think respect is a huge thing regardless, but everybody has so many different thoughts and feelings
Yeah.
on this issue, you know, and I just think all we can do is try to respect everybody's thoughts and feelings and however they feel comfortable and what they feel comfortable doing. And I think that is what's really missing from our community is respect. And if that was like the one thing that I could leave people with is just try to respect each other.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Kaitlin, I'm going to finish with the question we ask all of our guests. And I say we, it's me, that I ask that I ask all of our guests at the end of each episode. And that question is, did your 1 year ago self believe that you could be here 1 year later?
I thought it was going to be sooner, to tell you the truth. Well, August, September, we'll be out of this mess.
Right.
So I don't know if that answers it. I'm actually shocked it's gone on this long.
I know.
But my mom always says this thing where she says, well, they can't eat you, you know, and it's just like, it was going to be, I knew it wasn't going to be fun or it wasn't going to be great, but I feel so terrible saying this because I know people lost their lives during this time, but I was like, I can make it through this. You know what I mean? And I knew that, yes, curveballs were thrown at me and there was definitely a lot of hardship, but I knew I could survive it. And I don't mean that to be insensitive. I hope that doesn't come sensitive because I knew there was some people that obviously this disease hit really hard. And I'm just grateful that I stayed healthy during all of this and my family. And so yeah, does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Like, and like on that, like what I hear from that is your topic of, and your passion for respect, right? Like is make sure that everyone, despite whatever thoughts come your way or whatever thoughts you're convicted by, like I respect yours and you respect mine. And if we continue to have that ripple effect with everyone in the world, like imagine the joy and kindness and gratitude that would really be on display for everyone around the world. And that's what I hear from that comment. And come on, I know you well enough. We've done 186 hospital visits together. And with that, like, I know that you don't have bad intentions, but it's one of those things that at the deepest part of our hearts, we are feelers and we feel for people. And if we just are able to help other people feel and help other people be inspired to just keep their head up in this season, I think it's just a win and that we're going to be able to keep going. But
absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is so cool. I love this. Coolest studio I've been in.
Of course. Hey, I put your name in lights down there.
I love it.
I hope you enjoy it. How I'm going to finish this one today is I just want to celebrate a very monumental thought with you.
Okay.
It is 4 months until college football is back.
Oh, well, first I'm like, is he going to bring up Christmas or what is he bringing up right now? I love Christmas.
You love Christmas, but you love college football. She is a USC Trojan fan. It's some beef we have with each other.
I know, but they've been frustrating for a few seasons for me. Just football in general. I just love fall. I love the fall life. I love Halloween. I love Thanksgiving. I love when it gets a little bit cooler here.
Yes. Well,
it means Christmas is coming. So, but yes,
all the things. Right, 4 months. It's a nice ripple effect, but I hope in 4 months we can be tailgating together to be able to go and watch some sports live in person, and that we can just be able to grab a meal, grab a beverage, and cheers each other for an incredible year that you have had, incredible year that we have had together, and that we can be excited that 1 year later we are still bringing hope and inspiration to people, and that's the goal. So thanks, Kaitlin, for being here. Give my love to your husband. I just wish you guys nothing but the best, and all my love to your family. Everyone, tune back in tomorrow for a brand new episode of 1 Year Later. Thanks again, Kaitlin, for being here. You guys stay inspired. That's what it's all about. See you later.